Dr.
Sir,
Jailal has joined.
yes, sir. National President Dr. Jailal, welcome to this webinar. May I request
sir,
Jailal
after 1
sir
minute
to
I will join.
address?
I will be there.
Yeah.
Just traveling. I will reach within 1 minute. I will be there.
Okay, okay. Should I start then, Dr.
Yeah,
Jyotirmay?
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, sir. Welcome, sir. Dr.
Thank you.
Surikant from Lucknow. Okay.
Go ahead,
So,
Surikant. Go ahead.
yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. A 56-year man presented with cough, expectoration, and low-grade fever with evening rise of temperature. He had diabetes mellitus, and his blood sugar was well controlled with oral hypoglycemic agents. His chest X-ray showed right apical infiltrative lesions. My dear friend, right apical infiltrative lesions are very much suggestive of pulmonary tuberculosis. They are not diagnostic. Any shadow on X-ray does not mean that it is tuberculosis, but however, they are suggestive. His CT thorax showed heterogeneous consolidation with areas of low attenuation and tree in bud opacities. Tree in bud opacities has got many differentials, including pulmonary tuberculosis, and pulmonary tuberculosis is one of the important differential. But we can have other possibilities also. Sputum of AFB was negative, and then CBNet revealed MTB detected scanty and rifampicin resistance. So CBNet is a very helpful tool. It has replacing now the simple sputum smear. It is also coming as alternative to culture, a lengthy procedure, and a very important for the program of National Tuberculosis Elimination Program. So the question is, how should we treat this case and how should we treat the diabetes mellitus? And it is associated with pulmonary tuberculosis. So coming to this brief silent feature of this case, the clinical history shows cough, expectoration, low-grade fever, and the evening rise of temperature. This is the classical clinical presentation of tuberculosis, of pulmonary tuberculosis, which most of MBBS student, resident, and our clinical practitioners, they are of course having experience of this type of clinical presentation for decades and centuries. And patient is also diabetic, so it's a very important scenario that it's not only a suggestive picture of pulmonary tuberculosis, but also a follow-through case of diabetes. And diabetes is an immunocompromised state, as you know, and diabetics are more vulnerable for developing so many infections, including pulmonary tuberculosis. Right apical infiltrate on chest X-ray, infiltrates on chest X-ray, heterogeneous consolidation, and tree in bud opacity on HRCT. They are all suggestive radiological features for pulmonary tuberculosis, although they are not diagnostic. I used to say in Hindi for last so many years, for last 25 years, I'm saying this basically on IMA platform, the GP's platform, कि जैसे हर चमकती चीज सोना नहीं होती, वैसे एक्सरे का हर धब्बा टीबी नहीं होती. And then Jyotirmay Paul called me a few years back on the West Bengal forum also. So then I also said this, my saying that जैसे हर चमकती चीज सोना नहीं होती, वैसे एक्सरे का हर धब्बा टीबी नहीं होती. कुछ लोगों ने मुझे वहां पूछा था बंगाली में क्या बोलेंगे, मैंने कहा बंगाली में आप कन्वर्ट कर लीजिए. तो इसको फिर आप बंगाली में कन्वर्ट कर लीजिए, वो जो ऑडियंस जो इसको बंगाली में समझना चाहती है, या ज्योतिर्मय से I am requesting Jyotirmay that you converted this in Bengali also.
Yes,
All
yes.
are all suggestive with it. So diagnosis of pulmonary tuberculosis. A word about the CBNet. It's an automated cartridge-based assay designed to simultaneously detect Mycobacterium tuberculosis and resistance to rifampicin directly in clinical specimens using hemi-nested real-time PCR. So it's a wonderful procedure. It's a very friendly procedure, I would say, very homely procedure, I would say. 2 hours training can any 10 pass UC candidate which you have as a sick attendant or even in your as a technician can be trained within 2 hours for doing this test. And in addition to the of course presence of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, it also gives idea of rifampicin sensitivity. So based on the there is a term called CT value. In COVID times, the CT value term has become a very popular. So CT value means the cycle threshold. Can you mute some other Jyotirmay? Can we mute some? Yeah. So the test provides semi-quantitative Mycobacterium tuberculosis detection based on the probe cycle threshold. This is called CT value, number of PCR cycles. What is CT value? Number of the PCR cycles required to amplify Mycobacterium tuberculosis DNA to a detective label. So lower the CT value is, the higher the chances of MTB detection, or with very much confidence you can say that yes, we have detected the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So high interpretation means the CT value less than 16, medium means CT value 16 to 22, low means CT value 20 to 28, and very low if CT value is more than 28. So if you require more cycles of PCR, this means you are having less copies of Mycobacterium tuberculosis in that sample. Now, if you see the sensitivity and specificity in case of a sputum sample for pulmonary tuberculosis, sensitivity is 88, overall sensitivity is 88%, specificity is 98% as compared to the gold standard, that is culture. Sensitivity of 68% in smear negative case, and this case was a sputum smear negative case. So with the help of this, we can diagnose tuberculosis. We could diagnose tuberculosis in this case. So 68% sensitivity is also very good sensitivity in sputum negative cases. And this case, our index case was sputum smear negative case. It can detect rifampicin resistance with the sensitivity of 95% and a specificity of 98%. So sensitivity and resistance to rifampicin has got very high sensitivity and specificity. So that's why it's a wonderful test, and it has changed the diagnostic efficacy regarding of the diagnosis of pulmonary tuberculosis and any tuberculosis in this country, not only in this country, but throughout the world. Samples where MTB detected was very low, false rifampicin resistance seen in 2.7% in, of course, gene expert cases. So you have to take this very cautiously. When MTB detected as reported as very low, means CT value is very high. Now, this is the algorithm which you have to understand in rifampicin resistance cases management, with the cases. So to understand the management of this case, my dear friend, you have to understand the algorithm. Appears to be very congested, appears to be very complicated, but it's a very simple algorithm. I will try my best to, of course, clarify for yourself. Now, once you have got the report of the CBNAT, you know, we have also developed, India has also developed the indigenous NAT, nucleic acid amplification test, that is called TrueNAT. And TrueNAT can be battery operated also, so it can be used in rural area also, where you are facing the problem of electricity. And it's a very simple procedure. More number of sample can be processed in comparison to the CBNAT. CBNAT is, of course, we purchased from outside. But TrueNAT is the indigenous country, and the cost is very less. So cost processing is also, so it's a cheaper investigation, indigenous investigation. And be proud of now Indians that a lot of innovations. The COVID times we have got a lot of innovations. Even before that, this TrueNAT was developed in 2018 and approved by ICMR and so many agencies. And now it is very much used in India. So we got the rifampicin resistance detected. Now, what is the next step? The next step is that, yes, we have to see whether this is only rifampicin resistance, or this strain is having resistance to other drugs also. So how can we judge? Yes. So we usually send 2 sputum samples for the CBNAT. Have you seen the program report, program guidelines? It send the 2 samples. So always send the second sample for the first line LPA and second line LPA. LPA is a line probe acid. Again, a molecular test. So first line LPA and then second line SPA. Also send a sample for liquid culture drug sensitivity test, where you have the facility. I don't know how many centers in West Bengal they have liquid culture drug susceptibility testing, but in Uttar Pradesh we have 12 centers where the facility of liquid culture and drug susceptibility testing is there. So of course, you can have the sensitivity pattern for first line, the second line. Especially, you have to look for the pyrazinamide, bedaquiline, clofazimine, moxifloxacin, linezolid, and delamide also, which are the newer drugs to be used, which are the, of course, new molecules to be used for the management of MDR cases. So after, then third step is do the pre-treatment evaluation. What is pre-treatment evaluation? You do a lot of battery you do a kind of battery of test by which you can reach the, of course, a decision that yes, we can use these tests, we can use these drugs very friendly. There is no contraindication for these drugs. So you have to evaluate patient by pre-treatment evaluation. And then, of course, check on NICSHARE or with culture and DST lab report if LPA results are available or not available. Now, if the results are available, then there are two conditions. One is on extreme left and second is on extreme right. What are the possibilities? So if you have got received the results of drug and sensitivity pattern for the other drugs also, the first line and second line, if yes, then you have to look for is there is no additional resistance detected, or there is a INH resistance detected with CAT-G or INH-A mutation. Because in INH resistance, there are two types of mutation resistance, CAT-G and INH-A. So not both, and fluoroquinolone resistance not detected. So either there is no additional drug resistance, or there is a resistance to one mutant of the INH. If this is the situation, you can choose the shorter oral bedaquiline containing MDR rifampicin resistance TB regimen. So in this case, what you require first line and second line drug susceptibility pattern. So now the time has changed to first day when you are planning prescribing the first anti-tubercular drug prescription. You know, my patient is sensitive TB, my patient is having sensitive TB or rifampicin resistant TB. If it is rifampicin resistant TB, does it associated with others first or second line drugs or not? So if it is not associated with other drugs, or it is having only one mutation INH resistance, then definitely you will use shorter oral bedaquiline when other clinical contraindications are not there. For example, pregnancy, for example, severe extrapulmonary tuberculosis, or some other contraindication which have been given in the list of the non-DST contraindications. Now, if your patient is fitting, yes, definitely you will go this shorter oral bedaquiline containing MDR regimen. I'll discuss what is this regimen is. Now, the second scenario, coming to the extreme right of this table, where the drug susceptibility pattern is there, but patient is having H resistance detected with both mutation CAT-G and INH mutation, or there is a resistance to fluoroquinolone. So if resistance pattern shows both mutant resistance to isoniazid or resistance to fluoroquinolone, then you cannot use shorter oral regimen. Then you have to go for the longer oral MDR XDR TB regimen. So two pathways are here. One is only rifampicin resistance, go for shorter oral regimen if there is no non-DST criteria, contraindications are present. Second scenario is that if rifampicin resistance is associated with both INH mutant resistance or acid associated with fluoroquinolone resistance, then you cannot use the shorter regimen, and then you have to follow the longer oral regimen. Now, the third scenario is that you are practicing in periphery of the West Bengal or Uttar Pradesh, and you didn't get the information about the sensitivity pattern to the other drugs. Then, of course, you have to look for the other exclusion criteria for shorter regimen, which I mentioned, that patient associated with HIV, patient is having pregnancy, patient is having extrapulmonary tuberculosis or severe form, so or a patient having disseminated tuberculosis. So these are the other contraindications for the shorter regimen. Then if these clinical, if of course the drug sensitivity pattern is not available, you have of course screen the non-DST criteria, and if they are absent, means patient is not pregnant, patient is not having severe extrapulmonary tuberculosis, patient is not having disseminated tuberculosis, and patient has not got history of using fluoroquinolones in the past for more than 1 month. If all these are absent, then again you can use shorter regimen, and later on, whenever you find the results of the drug susceptibility pattern on the basis of these drug sensitivity results, you can modify your regimen. But if these criteria, non-GST criteria, for example, patient is pregnant, severe form of extrapulmonary tuberculosis, disseminated tuberculosis, or TB with HIP are present, or there is of course, pediatric TB, a younger age group, then of course you can use longer oral regimen. So with all these two-step exercise, one step is the DST pattern, second is the non-DST criteria evaluation. After this, if your patient fitting for a shorter regimen, you will go for shorter regimen. Otherwise, you will go for longer oral regimen. My dear friends, the injectables, the streptomycin, kanamycin, cyclosporine, the capromycin, amikacin, they are not the preferred regimens now. So all injection containing or painful regimen or injection containing regimens, they have been removed from the new guidelines of PMDT. They just came in March 2021, 1 month back. So this is the latest flow of the treatment algorithm, I would say, coming by the NTEP in March 2021. So what is this shorter regimen? Shorter regimen is 4 to 6 months of bedaquiline. Bedaquiline is used only for maximum 6 months. Levofloxacin, that is one quinolone from group A, WHO grouping, you know, A, B, C. So this is again coming from group A. Clofazimine, pyrazamide, ethambutol from first line drug. High dose of INH is also from first line drug, and ethironamide. So 3 drugs from first line and 4 drugs from second line, or you can say the group A and group B, and followed by 5 months of levofloxacin, clofazimine, pyrazamide, ethambutol. So it is 7 by 4, means 7 months, 7 drugs for 4 to 6 months and 4 drugs for 5 months. So this is total 9 to 11 months. This is called shorter oral regimen. Now, what is the longer oral regimen? If your patient not fitting into this, then you can choose the longer oral MDR regimen. What is this? This is 18 to 20 months of course regimen. Levofloxacin, bedaquiline again used only for 6 months. And of course, the total 18 to 20 months of the rest of the drugs, the levofloxacin, linezolid, clofazimine, and cyclosporine. So that is how you can choose your drug depending upon the culture and DST pattern, whether rifampicin resistance is associated with other drug or not, or whether any non-DST criteria is a contraindication for shorter drug regimen. Now, I said one thing in the algorithm, what is pre-treatment evaluation? So every patient who is having rifampicin resistance or MDR-TB or XDR-TB must go this chart of pre-treatment evaluation. And for this, you have to admit patient at the DRTB center or nodal DRTB center for a few days, means 2 to 3 days. Now in COVID days, you cannot admit, you should avoid the admission of the patient, or you should have the COVID negative report, then only you can admit. And then of course you evaluate and of course start your regimen, wait for 2 to 3 days of any toxicity or any intolerance, and then you can discharge the patient, and patient can get the all anti-tubercular drugs from the district, TB center, that is DRTB center at district level. Now, what things you have to evaluate as a part of pre-treatment evaluation? So you have to do history and physical examination. There is no option. My dear friends, in India, for more than 200, we are practicing this modern system of medicine. British introduced this modern system of course, medicine. Before that, we were using our traditional Ayurveda and other herbal medicine and other natural medicines. But for last about 200 years, we are using this modern system of medicine. And in Ayurveda also, in this modern system medicine also, any system of medicine you follow, my dear friend, especially I'm saying to those who are coming from JDN, Junior Doctor Network of IMA, that there is no option of history and physical examination. The medical history, the medical future, the medical traditions cannot, if you following this, you cannot get rid of history and physical examination. So be empathetic about the doing history or learning about the history and physical examination. This is true for the MBBS student also. This is true for postgraduate student also. Record the height of the patient, record weight of the patient, so that you can, of course, have the idea of the BMI of the patient. Then, of course, psychiatric evaluation if required, because certain drugs, they can lead to psychiatric manifestation, depression, suicidal tendency, so many other psychiatric, of course, disorders. So psychiatric evaluation is also required. And that's why whenever you are making a drug resistance cavity in your medical college, psychiatrist is a part and parcel of that medical college nodal core committee. And my dear friend, I'm also addressing to the those resident or those doctors or those faculty members joined here in this webinar from a new medical college. The NMC has issued a gazette notification that all new medical colleges which want the permission or re-permission after the 5 years of the running of the medical college, facility for drug sensitive TB and drug resistant TB diagnosis and management must be in the medical college. Otherwise, you will not get the approval or renewal of the medical college. So all faculty members and my dear friends, IMA members, those who are interested or planning to open the medical college or they have opened the medical college, my dear friend, you cannot run new medical college without the facility of diagnosis and treatment of drug sensitive and drug resistant TB. So this is mandatory from NMC, National Medical Council. Then of course, certain blood tests, for example, random blood sugar, HIV testing, complete blood count, hemoglobin, TLC, TLC platelet, liver function test, including the serum proteins, thyroid level, TSH levels, urine examination, routine and microscopic, of course, urine pregnancy test in women of reproductive age group, serum electrolytes, chest X-ray, and ECG. So this is the complete list of pre-treatment evaluation. And after this, only you will prescribe. Then, of course, you should have the how to prescribe according to the weight, means weight bands. So there are 4 weight bands as far as the drugs of the second line or the drug resistant TB are concerned. This dosing schedule according to the weight band is available on the website of TBC India or NTEP program, and you can take the help of this website and download, and of course you can post the at your TB center or at your clinic, and you can take the idea of doses as per the weight band: 16 to 29 kg weight band, 30 to 45 kg weight band, 46 to 70 kg weight band, and more than 70 kg of weight band. Now, question is how to follow. So for follow-up and monitoring of shorter oral MDR regimen, there is a definite indications that when you will do assessment clinically. So the clinical assessment done monthly. Smear microscopy is monthly for 3 months, and then of course 3 monthly. Culture is also done 3 monthly. DST is also done initially and then 3 months, and then at the end of treatment. Urine pregnancy tests as and when clinically indicated. Whenever you suspect that patient might be pregnant, you can of course do urine test. CBC as and when clinically indicated. Thyroid and liver function test at the end of intensive phase to begin with, and at the end of intensive phase, and then as and when required. Chest X-ray at the end of beginning and at the end of IP, that's an intensive phase, and then as and when required. ECG at 2 weeks, then monthly in first 6 months, then as and when required. For 6 months, you are using bedaquiline. So ECG must be done monthly in first 6 months as till you are using the bedaquiline. Serum electrolyte, sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. 4 types of electrolyte must be done as and when indicated in case of any QTC prolongation. So if you found QTC prolongation on ECG, you must repeat the serum electrolytes in addition to initial, that is pre-treatment evaluation. So these are the monitoring parameters, monitoring evaluation method other than the pre-treatment evaluation. Specialist consultation, when you require the, of course, referral from psychiatrist, referral from neurophysician, referral from diabetologist, so as and when clinically indicated. And color vision test, because ethambutol can lead to color vision loss of color vision also. So once in 2 months, especially in children, because children, they are unable to tell the, of course, the problem of color blindness. Then of course, you must have, because if you are using the drugs, then of course you must know what are the adverse drug reaction during the shorter regimen. So various drugs have various kind of adverse drug reaction. For example, QT prolongation is the characteristic side effect of bedaquiline, fluoroquinolone, clofazimine. Rash, allergic reaction, anaphylaxis. Any drug can give rise. GI symptoms, GI intolerance, ethionamide, pyrazinamide, ethambutol, bedaquiline, clofazimine, fluoroquinolone, and high dose of INH. Diarrhea and flatulence, yes, ethionamide. Psychotic symptoms, INH and fluoroquinolone. Suicidal ideation, INH and ethambutol, ethionamide. Seizures, of course, isoniazid and fluoroquinolones. Tendonitis and tendon rupture can occur with fluoroquinolone. And similarly, hepatitis is the feature of pyrazinamide, isoniazid, ethambutol, and bedaquiline. Giddiness is for ethionamide, fluoroquine, and pyrazinamide. Hypothyroidism with the ethionamide. Arthralgia with pyrazinamide, fluoroquine. Don't remember right now. This all is available on India TB website, TBC India website, or on the program National Tuberculosis Elimination Program website. So go through this, and you have a chart at your clinic, at your practice, at your chamber, so that you can monitor the various kind of drugs if you are managing the drug resistant tuberculosis. Now, coming to the second question, I think I have tried to give in, although this was lengthy, but I have given the latest and updated information how to plan a treatment for the rifampicin resistance case, and how to start the treatment with pre-treatment evaluation, and how to monitor the case. So from first day to the last day of treatment, I have discussed some salient features. Now, coming to the second question of Dr. Jyotirmay Pal, which is a very, of course, important thing that when pulmonary tuberculosis is associated with diabetes. Although I'm not diabetologist, I'm a pulmonologist, but Dr. Jyotirmay Pal has ordered me to answer this question also. So I tried, and luckily I got my publication published in 2013 March. So 8 years back, I published in JIMA. So Dr. Jyotirmay Pal, it is not the present time that I am associated with JIMA. I am associated closely for last more than 8 years. I have the documentary evidence. This I published in JIMA journal in 2013 March. Diabetes mellitus with pulmonary tuberculosis are double trouble. So you can see in your archive my article.
Sir, one request. Finishing the salient feature. We have one more cases.
Okay, I'm finishing because this was not my case. So these are the salient features from this paper. That prevalence of tuberculosis among diabetics is 2 to 5 times higher than the non-diabetic population. You should know. Increased glycemic level provides all the favorable conditions that is required for the multiplication of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Diabetes increases the risk and odds of developing tuberculosis, especially in young people. I am not going into the mechanism because it's a tedious process. So, and on other hand, we are also having the high prevalence of diabetes in tuberculosis, vice versa, from 2% to 35%. Patient with diabetes should be screened for. That's why there is a dictum that patient with diabetes should be screened for tuberculosis, and patient with tuberculosis should be screened for diabetes. This is called double, triple, and dual referral. So, of course, the important points which you have to remember is to search for active tuberculosis, is planning for drug therapy, and then, of course, the health system and behavior you have to assess. Then personalized pragmatic glycemic targets might be needed that account for an array of factors such as severity and prognosis of a given patient tuberculosis disease, risk of adverse events such as hypoglycemia. So all kind of things to achieve the good glycemic control, and aggressive approach for the diabetes management is required. So concurrent anti-tubercular treatment and anti-diabetic, the recommendation is that insulin use during the tuberculosis treatment has been suggested as it provides rapid and smooth glycemic control and does not have pharmacological interaction. Other oral hypoglycemic drugs may have interaction with rifampicin and other drugs also. So that's why it is preferable that you should use insulin therapy during the treatment with anti-tubercular treatment. So management of this case requires that sputum is sent for the first and second line LPA culture and DRST. Repeat CBNAT may be sent if this is a new case with no risk factor for DRTB and detection is very low. Initiate shorter MDR regimen with bedaquiline if no exclusion criteria present. Otherwise, initiate longer MDR regimen and modify according to the DST results and adverse drug reaction. Regular monitoring of blood sugar levels and complication of diabetes should be monitored and should be considered to shift the patient on insulin if acceptable to the patient. Thank you very much. Thank you very much because this is a very long, of course, question. The first question was very long, although second was also very long, but I have tried to shorten it. So thank you. Wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Dr.
Yes, thank you, sir. Actually, Yes, sir. Diabetes and tuberculosis as a challenge, because diabetes affect the tuberculosis affect the diabetes, and also
Yes.
when you use the anti-tubercular drug, that enhance the cytochrome system. So if you simultaneously, if you use the oral hypoglycemic drug, the effectively can decrease because they use the same pathway. That is why insulin is less affected by the cytochrome pathway.